Hello, everybody. Today we're going to go over Phoenix Journal number 227, Rise of the Antichrist, Volume 1, pages 40 through 47. Then we'll be going through Phoenix Journal number 2, chapter 16. Then we'll be going over the story of Jonah, in chapter 1 and chapter 2. Easter returned in radiance. I ask, scribe, that you keep your light shield about you, for the topic we are about to discuss is one of which, of its very nature, attracts the Antichrist. It is all right, for I will not allow that one to touch you, for therein lies the true danger. Let us begin utilizing material already written, but I do not wish you distracted as to source, so it will go unnamed. Just quote the portions as I direct, please. Now, this is quoting. Lucifer was a magnificent being, a brilliant personality. He stood next to the most high fathers of the constellations, in the direct line of the universe authority. Notwithstanding Lucifer's transgression, subordinate intelligences refrained from showing him disrespect and disdain prior to Michael's bestowal. Even the archangel Michael at the time of Moses' resurrection did not bring again him an accusing judgment, but simply said, "The judge rebuke you." Judgment in such matters belongs to the Ancient of Days, the rulers of the super-universe. Lucifer is now the fallen and deposed. Self-contemplation is most disastrous, even to the exalted personalities of the celestial world. O Lucifer, it was said, your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom because of your brightness. Your olden prophet saw this sad estate when he wrote, "How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How are you cast down, you who dare to confuse the worlds?" Very little was heard of Lucifer on earth, owing to the fact that he assigned his first lieutenant, Satan, to advocate his cause on your planet. Satan was a member of the same primary group. He entered fully into the Lucifer insurrection. The dragon eventually became the symbolic representation of all these evil personages. Upon the triumph of Michael, Gabriel came down and bound the dragon, all the rebel leaders, for an age. Of the Jerusalem, Sephiric rebels, it is written, "And the angels who kept not the first estate, but left their own habitations, he has reserved in sure chains of darkness to the day of judgment." There was no peculiar or special conditions which suggested or favored rebellion. It is our belief that the idea took origin and form in Lucifer's mind, and that he might have instigated such a rebellion, no matter where he might have been stationed. Lucifer first announced his plans to Satan, but it required several months to corrupt the mind of his able and brilliant associate. However, once converted to the rebel theories, he became a bold and earnest advocate of self-assertion and liberty. No one ever suggested rebellion to Lucifer. That idea of its self-assertion in opposition to the will of Michael and to the plans of Universal Father, as they represented in Michael, had its origin in his own mind. His relations with the Creator's Son had been intimate and always cordial. At no time prior to the exaltation of his own mind did Lucifer openly express dissatisfaction about the universe administration, notwithstanding his silence. For more than 100 years of standard time, there was not peace in Lucifer's mind. Throughout this period, Lucifer became increasingly critical of the entire plan of universe administration, but always professed wholeheartedly loyalty. His first outspoken disloyalty was manifested on the occasion of a visit of Gabriel to Jerusalem, just a few days before the open proclamation of Lucifer. It was very difficult to point out the exact cause, or causes, which finally culminated in Lucifer's rebellion. We are certain of only one thing, and that is, whatever these first beginnings were, they had their origin in Lucifer's mind. There must have been a pride of self that nourished itself to the point of self-deception. So Lucifer, for a time, really persuaded himself that his contemplation of rebellion was actually for the good of the system, if not of the universe. But the time his plan had developed the point of dissolution, no doubt he had gone too far for his original and mischief-making pride to permit him to stop. At some point in this experience, he became insincere and evil, enveloped into deliberate and willful sin. That this happened is proved by the subsequent conduct of this brilliant executive. Evolutionary man finds it difficult to fully comprehend the significance and to grasp the meaning of evil, error, sin, and iniquity. Man is slow to perceive that constructive perfection and imperfection produce potential evil, that conflicting truth and falsehood create confusing error, that the divine endowment of free will choice eventuates into divergent realms of sin and righteousness, that the persistent pursuit of divinity leads to the kingdom of God, as contrasted with its continuous rejection, which leads to the domains of iniquity. Of all the perplexing problems growing out of Lucifer's rebellion, none has occasioned more difficulty than the failure of immature evolutionary mortals to distinguish between true and false liberty. True liberty is one quest of the ages, and the reward of evolutionary progress. False liberty is the subtle deception of error of time and the evil of space. Enduring liberty is predicted on the reality of justice, intelligence, maturity, fractionarity, fraternity, and equity. Liberty is a self-destroying technique of cosmic existence when its motivation is unintelligent, unconditioned, and uncontrolled. True liberty is progressively related to reality and is ever regardful of social equity, cosmic fairness, universal fraternity, and divine obligations. Liberty is suicidal when divorced from material justice and intellectual fairness, social forbearance, moral duty, and spiritual values. Liberty is non-existent apart from cosmic reality, and all personality reality is proportional to its divinity relationships. Unbridled self-will and unregulated self-expression equal unimaginated selfishness. An acme of ungodliness, liberty without the associated and ever-increasing conquest of self is a figment of egoistic moral imagination. Self-motivated liberty is a conceptual illusion, a cruel deception. License masquerading in the garments of liberty is the forerunner of abject bondage. True liberty is the associate of genuine self-respect. False liberty is the concert of self-admiration, pride. True liberty is the fruit of self-control. False liberty, the assumption of self-assertion. Self-control leads to altruistic service. Self-admiration tends towards the exploitation of others for the selfish aggrandizement of such a mistaken individual as is willing to sacrifice righteous attainment for the sake of possessing unjust power over his fellow beings. Even wisdom is divine and safe only when it is cosmic in scope and spiritual in motivation. There is no error greater than that species of self-deception which leads intelligent beings to crave the exercise of power over other beings, for the purpose of depriving these persons of their natural liberties. The golden rule of human fairness cries out against all such fraud, unfairness, selfishness, and unrighteousness. Of true and genuine liberty is capability with the reign of love and the ministry of mercy. How dare the self-willed creature encroach upon the rights of his fellows in the name of personal liberty, when the supreme rulers of the universe stand back in merciful respect for these prerogatives of will and potentials of personality? No being in the exercise of his supposed personal liberty has a right to deprive any other being of those privileges of existence confirmed by the creators and duly respected by all their loyal associates. Evolutionary man may have to contend for his material liberties with tyrants and oppressors on a world of sin and iniquity, or during the early times of primitive evolving sphere. War is the heritage of early evolutionary man, but on the worlds of a normal and advancing civilization, physical combat as a technique of adjusting racial misunderstandings has long since fallen into disrepute. Every creature of every evolving universe who aspires to do the Father's will is destined to become the partner of the time-space creators in this magnificent adventure of experimental perfection attainment. Were this not true, the Father would have hardly endowed such creatures with creative free will. Neither would he have indwelled them, actually go into partnership with them by means of his own spirit. Lucifer's folly was the attempt to do the non-doable to short-circuit time in an experimental universe. Lucifer's crime was the attempted creative disenfranchisement of every personality, the unrecognized abridgment of the creature's personal participation. Free will participation in the long evolutionary struggle to obtain the status of light and life both individually and collectively. In so doing, this one-time sovereign of your system set the temporal purpose of his own will directly athwart the eternal purpose of God's will as it is revealed in the bestowal of free will upon all personal creatures. The Lucifer Rebellion thus threatened the maximum possible infringement of the free will choice, a threat forevermore to deprive every one of these beings of the thrilling experience of contributing something personal and unique to the slowly erecting monument to experience wisdom. In short, what God has given men and angels, Lucifer would have taken away from them. That is, the divine privilege of participating in the creation of their own destinies and the destiny of this local system. No being in all the universe has the rightful liberty to deprive any other being of true liberty, the right to love and be loved, the privilege of worshiping God and serving his fellows. The moral will creatures of the evolutionary worlds are always bothered with the unthinking question as to why the all-wise creators permit evil and sin. They fail to comprehend that both are inevitable. If the creature is to be truly free, the free will of evolving man or exquisite angels is not a mere philosophic concept, a symbolic ideal. Man's ability to choose good or evil is a universe reality. This liberty to choose for oneself is an endowment of the supreme rulers, and they will not permit any being or group of beings to deprive a single personality in the wide universe of this divinely bestowed liberty, not even to satisfy such misguided and ignorant beings in the enjoyment of this misnamed personal liberty. Although conscious and wholehearted identification with evil sin is the equivalent of non-existence, annihilation, there must always intervene between the time of such personal identification with sin and the execution of the penalty, the automatic result of such a willful embrace of evil, a period of a time of sufficient length to allow for such an education of such an individual's universe status, as will prove entirely satisfactory to all related universe personalities, and which will be so fair as just to win the approval of the sinner himself. But if this universe rebel against the reality of truth, and goodness refuses to approve the verdict, if the guilty one knows in his heart the justice of his condemnation, but refuses to make such a confession, then must the execution of sentences be delayed, in accordance with the discretion of the Ancient of Days. And the Ancient of Days refuses to annihilate any being until all moral values and all spiritual realities are extinct, both in the evildoer and in all related supporters and possible sympathizers. The very fact that an evil-doing creature can actually choose to do wrong, commit sin, establishes the fact of free willness, and fully justifies any length delay in the execution of justice, provided the extended mercy might conduce to repentance and rehabilitation. Most of the liberties which Lucifer sought he already had. Others he was to receive in the future. All these precious endowments were lost by giving way to impatience and yielding to a desire to possess what one craves now, and to possess it in defiance of all obligation, to respect the rights and liberties of all other beings, composing the universe of universes. Ethical obligations are innate, divine, and universal. There are many reasons known to us why the Supreme Ruler did not immediately destroy, or in turn, the leaders of the Lucifer Rebellion. There are no doubt still other and possible better reasons unknown to us. Their mercy features of this delay in the execution of justice were extended personally by Michael. Supreme justice can act instantly when not restrained by divine mercy. But the ministry of mercy to the children of time and space always provides for this time lag, this saving interval between seed time and harvest. If the seed sowing is good, this interval provides for the testing and upholding of character. If the seed sowing is evil, this merciful delay provides time for repentance and rectification. This time delay in the adjudication and execution of evildoers is inherent in the mercy ministry of the seven superuniverses. This restraint of justice by mercy proves that God is love, and that such a God of love dominates the universes, and in mercy controls the fate and judgment of all his creatures. The mercy delays of time are by the mandate of the free will of the creators. There is good to be derived in the universe from this technique of patience in dealing with sinful rebels. While it is all too true that good cannot come of evil to the one who contemplates and performs evil, is equally true that all things, including evil, potentially and manifest, work together for good to all beings who know God, love to do His will, and are ascending paradise work, according to His eternal plan and divine purpose. But these mercy delays are not interminable. Notwithstanding the long delay in adjudicating the Lucifer rebellion, there issued the mandate of the Ancient of Days, directing that Satan be henceforth confined to the prison world with Lucifer. This ends the ability of Satan to pay further visits to any of the fallen worlds. Justice in a mercy-dominated universe may be slow, but it is certain. Now we'll be going to Phoenix Journal number 2, and we'll be starting with chapter 16. Please utilize the portion of Gabriel of 2 to 352. It is most suitable that this one speak of the crucifixion. Sonata Emmanuel and Judas Iscariot, present and awaiting your preparation. Please go to the other recorder that we might pen a letter to your paper regarding thy local judge, Jason Brent. So be it. Credit should be given in a public manner when credit is due. This one has given no more justice than did Emmanuel receive at the hands of his courts. Only the property in dispute is of difference. Justice is justice, and it is just that he receive attention in this, a book that will go forth throughout the world. These are the reasons, precious ones, that the world is in total corruption and decay. Now this is Gabriel tells of the crucifixion. I come this day that I might notarize myself. I am Gabriel of the archangel realms of light. I come in that it is easier to speak objectively, as observer, than as participant. I am the bearer of the seed of Christos, unto the place of destiny. So I was in the beginning, so shall I be in the ending. Gabriel, who has shared with earth man since the beginning of earth man. Mine seed has grown and passed his final initiation in the places of the Most High, Aton, creator source, and ruler of the human races. Aton, one with the creation, birth of the creation. Mine light of lights came not unto you 2,000 years ago to bring peace unto a heinous land of evil. He now is blessed with his earned label of Sananda, came forth as Emmanuel, to show of man the way through truth and wisdom, for thy place was dark and evil. The beauteous sun, Lucifer, had been cast forth from the realms of glory and order, unto the tiny planet of earth, that he might mend of his ways. It was ordained that the lighted one would come forth in the proper time, to begin to reclaim the souls in punishment with the fallen angel. It made it not easier to fulfill the initiation and mission upon thy place. Sananda had been many times since on thy surface to meet ye once in physical body, to appear here and there that he might be remembered, and ye might be reminded of his presence. He has grown unto his total inheritance, and has accepted the responsibilities thereof. It is now come the time of evolvement, wherein he shall come forth again to reclaim God's kingdom, and return his people unto the rightful birthright in the realms of light. You, dear ones, Sananda is the son whom I cherish, and revere above all others. For he has grown in perfection, and the creation reflects in purity that wondrous perfection. Ye ones of earth must now revise thy thinking patterns. This beloved, O beloved Christ, masters, has undergone his final initiation, and with it comes a new title, little ones. You shall accept and know him as Sananda. He is the director of the new dispensation. Ye have passed from under the old law, just as those of ancient times, of the law of Moses, passed into the newness with the birthing of Isu, Jesus Emmanuel. Ye have reached thine own fulfillment of the prophecies and closing of cycle, of experience of a planet and its peoples. These laws have been in revealing for some years of thy counting, and few have accepted them. It is now time that they come forth in mass projection, that man can have access to intelligent choices about his soul placement. Ask of no man his opinion. It opens the door for sinister forces. Keep your own counsel. Seek the light, and ye shall find therein all which ye have asked, and that which you have sought, if you ask in the name of the lighted ones. Ye shall receive thy truth and confirmation, my son. Sananda shall stand porter at the gate, that nothing enter into thy port, which is of darkness. He shall also stand porter at the gate of the universal dimensions, that all men be counted in justice, as measured by their earth experiences. Ye ones of earth have forgotten thy source. Ye shall now be in thy remembering, and for some who tarry it shall be most unpleasant. I most unquestionably suggest you do not deny this liberator, for this is thy final opportunity to balance thine selves, so as is written, and it shall come to pass in thy time upon this place. I, Gabriel, place mine seal upon these words, and it is I who holds the time clock in my hand. So be it, for I have spoken. You will pen now, Dharma, for I wish to tell you the truth about the crucifixion in brief detail. There will be a time when it is more fully brought unto you, for you ones do not understand the thought of God, transference, and manifestation, the illusion under which you all are function. Let us speak of that which transpired, and the scripting truth therein. There are some ones of thy human peoples who will be given credit for that which they did at the time, and this will be format for so doing. After Isu's condemnation, he was most brutally treated. They, his adjudgers, bludgeoned and scourged his body until his life's blood flowed upon the floors and ground. They placed upon his shoulders a heavy cross of wood, so that he would carry this great burden himself to the place of his death. The cross was heavy, and Emmanuel writhed and moaned under his burden. His blood mixed with his sweat, and was an evil mass. Ye ones flinch? Ye cannot be in the imagining of the scene, nor the gift he gave unto you that day. For he did not have to bear this burden, and thank him for his willingness, for the lords of heaven, including myself, desired to smite the human races into the void. My child, Emmanuel, collapsed under the heavy burden, for his strength left him. A stranger came along the path, named Simon of Cyrene, and he was forced to help carry the cross. He bore it humbly and gladly, for it was all he could do. It took long to reach the place called Golgotha, for the path there was difficult, because he was mocked and beaten, and stones were cast forth upon him. Those along the path forced wine mixed with gall, taken from animals, into his mouth, and spat upon him. When he refused to drink of the potions, they beat him more and forced it into his mouth. And it was a hateful lot that day, children of earth. It was the custom to bind a person unto the cross with strapping, but not so for this Lamb of God. They forced him down on the cross, stretching his limbs and beating him. They nailed his hands and his feet unto the wood. They placed the nails also through his wrists, tendons, whereby the nails would not pull away through the flesh. After they impaled him upon the cross, and put the cross upright into the post hole prepared, letting it fall the depth of the hole, that it might be jostled and jolted, they stripped him naked, and shared his clothing among themselves, and cast a lot for his robes of mockery. They laughed at his nakedness, and spake vulgar jokes about his maleness. There was no degradation of debasement left unutilized that day. They sat and watched him, lest someone would come and take down the cross. For you see, there's no way to get a man from a cross, except to take it down and lay it down. It takes many men to lift the body and cross up from a hole and lay it down, so it was usually left to fall. Elsewise, a scaffolding would be built up which to stand. 2 murderers were crucified with him, one to his right and one to his left. Those who were around him blasphemed him, and mocked him, and laughed at him. Great sense of humor, you ones of earth, they screamed and said. Since you are king of wisdom, help yourself. Since you are the son of a celestial son, and have great strength, why do you not get off the cross? Likewise did the scribes from the temple and the Pharisees, the high priests and elders of the people mock him. And they said, you helped others, but you cannot help yourself. Since you are king of wisdom, get down from the cross and help yourself. And if you do that, we will believe in your teachings. Does this sound a bit familiar to ye ones? If you will but prove unto us, then we will believe. Further they chided. He trusted in his wisdom, and being the son of the angel Gabriel. Thus may his wisdom, or the angel Gabriel, save him if he wants to. But I was constrained to hold mine wrath, for it was to be Sananda's path, not mine. But mine wrath did not go unnoted. The sky became darkened, the sun was covered over, but not by clouds, and a great storm arose across the land, which did not happen often in that time of cycle. Mine son cried out, I thirst, give me something to drink. And thereupon one of them went, took a sponge from a pail, filled it with vinegar, and put it on a pole, and gave it to him to drink. And then, what did the kind ones in the crowd offer? Do not give him more to drink. Let us see how long he can bear this. I would bear it no more. And the thunder of mine voice rolled upon that place, and Emmanuel cried out again, but nobody understood him, for his speech seemed confused, as he conversed with me. The whole of the land trembled, and the earth quaked. When my son sets his foot again on that place, the earth will split in a chasm, of such depth it will have no bottom, and the multitudes will be cast within, for it is the land of evil, for mine wrath is unbounded. And he's speaking of Israel. Mine beloved's head fell forward, for I took his pain and unconsciousness unto myself. And that which man did that day shall be visited upon him in return in a day of nearness. For that which a man sends forth returns unto him in increased measure. Be most careful of that which ye sow. Emmanuel fell into a deep coma, from which there appeared no breath, for I breathed for him, nor was there motion of any sign from his physicalness. The cruel mockers thought him dead. A soldier took his lance and pierced his loins to see whether or not Emmanuel was dead. From the wound came blood mixed with water, as is the case in a person who is dead or half dead from blood stagnation in a hanging stance. Since the soldier was sure Emmanuel was dead, he informed the others thereof. They were all astonished, for it was most unusual that one crucified would die so quickly. However, it had been a most dreadful day. The earth still shook and trembled, and the sun was still covered, and hail came from the sky where there was no clouds. And the sky was red with mine fury, for red is mine ray of vibration. God, atone, angry? Oh, ones, you shall soon be in finding out just how angry. Ye ones of ours are no different. The heavens weep and boil when you are troubled and injured. All is marked into the records upon which man will stand in judgment of self. All man will pray for his death, and will not be granted unto him, for he will face his crimes against the laws of creation. Within the crowd were also women and others who watched from the distance, for they were followers of Emmanuel, and had served him, and they had come into Galilee to stand with him. Among them was Mary, the mother of Emmanuel, and Mary Magdalene, and others who cared greatly for this peaceful man of perfection. When the mass of people went away, they came to him, knelt before the cross, and cried bitterly, for they too thought Emmanuel dead. However, among them was one man, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a follower of Emmanuel. He watched Emmanuel closely, and knew Emmanuel was only deeply comatose, for I spoke unto him. He told no one. He went quickly into the city to Pilate, and asked for the body of Emmanuel, so that he could bury him. Pilate ordered that Emmanuel's body was to be turned over to Joseph, for he wanted the entire circumstance quieted. Many then came with Joseph, and they gently took Emmanuel off the cross. Then Joseph wrapped the body into a pure flaxen shroud, which he had prepared prior, and which would ultimately reflect the image of Emmanuel. Then Joseph, and those who carried him, carried the body of Emmanuel the long way to Jerusalem, and placed him outside of the city into his own tomb, which he had cut into a rock for his own burial place. He then had rolled a large rounded rock in front of the door of the tomb, and went away, in order to obtain some medicine, in order to nurse Emmanuel. But the entrance was put under guard by soldiers and Emmanuel's mother, Mary, lest anyone go in and steal the body. Joseph of Arimathea searched and found Emmanuel's friends from India, and went back with them to the tomb. They went to Emmanuel through a second entrance, which was a secret passage, and nursed him for 3 days and 3 nights, so that he was soon somewhat recovered, that he would have strength restored. The tomb remained in guarded state, for the priests and for the Pharisees had gone to Pilate, saying, Lord, we consider that this crazy man said when he was still alive, I shall return after 3 days and 3 nights and rise, for I shall only be in a languor. Therefore, please continue the guard for the full time, lest the last deception may not be worse than the first. Pilate was most willing to grant such a request, for the incident was most distressing to him, and he wanted all behind him. The soldiers then went to the tomb and sealed the rock which had been placed in the opening. They knew not, however, of the second opening, so assistants could go and come from the secret entrance without being seen. On the 3rd day Emmanuel was strong enough to stand and walk. Easter was past, and the first day of the week had come, and 3 days and nights had also passed, after which Emmanuel had said that he would live again after his apparent death. And behold, a great thunder arose in the air, and a radiant light came down from the sky and landed, not far from the tomb, on the earth. I had come to claim mine son. This is Gabriel. I went to the tomb, and the soldiers moved aside, for they were terrified. But I raised mine hand against them, and struck them with lightning currents, one following another. They were stunned and fell to the ground, and were unconscious for a long time. Then I went to the tomb, rolled the stone away from the door, and said to Blessed Mary, mother of Emmanuel, and Mary Magdalene, to not be afraid. I know that you are seeking and tending of Emmanuel, who was crucified. But I told them he was not there, for he lived, and I showed unto them the place where he had lain. I waited upon my son, and concealed with him, for mine pain and anger were still most great. I told these beloved ones who stood watch that Emmanuel would walk before them to Galilee, and there they would see him. And they were filled with confusion, for they thought him dead, and distressed at the empty tomb. I told them to look not for the living among the dead, and to go forth to tell the disciples. I warned them to tell none other. They told no other, but the soldiers roused, and were surprised at what had happened, and left hurriedly to go into the city, and spread the news of what had happened. They came to the high priests and the elders of the council to have a secret meeting, so that they would know what to lie unto the people. The soldiers were given a large sum of money to keep them silent, and were told to tell the people that Emmanuel's disciples had come at night and taken his body. The soldiers took the money and did as requested, just like our government dogs still do today with our governments. Mary and Mary Magdalene went away and did as I had told them, and again they were visited by an etheric being, who is considered to be me. Mary went to the guardian angel being, who wore a brilliant white garment, and was radiant in aspect, and reached forth to grasp his hand, but he stepped back, and explained that he was different in kind than them, and his garment was a protection against the world atmosphere, and contamination. He further told them that if they persisted and touched him, they would be consumed by fire, for he was energy. He was in energy form. They were gently told to go their way and do as instructed. As they went their way, they met Peter and another disciple, and told them what had transpired. Peter and the other disciple rushed to the tomb and found another of the disciples already there. They looked within and saw the shrouds, neatly lying on the ground, and the first disciple was filled with fear and did not wish to go within the tomb. Peter came forth and went into the tomb, and found everything like the disciple had seen. The shrouds were carefully folded and placed on the ground. Also there was the shroud which now bore the imprint of Emmanuel's features and body. Also there were the salves and herbs along with some figurines of clay, which were quite strange in appearance, the men never having seen such before. Peter and the other two disciples left the tomb after tending the remnants in security, and returned to the city to gather the remaining disciples. Now we'll be going to Jonah, chapter 1, starting with verse 17, and this is for the sign of Jonah Emmanuel spoke of. Now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Now, the belly of this fish represents the tomb, and him being in it and never fully dying. Because you've got to imagine Jonah came out of this well, as you'll see, but he didn't die while he was in it. Then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God out of the fish's belly, and said, I cried by reason of mine affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell I cried. I and thou heardest my voice. For thou hast cast me into the deep, in the midst of the seas, and the floods compassed me about. All thy billows and thy waves passed over me. The seas in this represent peoples also, and lies and everything else they chastised him while he was on the cross. Then I said, I am cast out of thy sight, yet I will look again toward thy holy temple. The waters compassed me about, even to the soul. This is how close he was to death, but he didn't fully die. The death closed me round about, the depths. The weeds were wrapped about my head. I went down to the bottoms of the mountains. The earth with her bars was about me forever. Yet hast thou brought up my life from the corruption, O Lord my God. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came in unto thee, into thine holy temple. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. But I will sacrifice unto thee with the voice of thanksgiving, and I will pay that which I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord. And the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonah upon the dry land. Now we'll be going to Micah chapter 6, starting with verse 6. Wherewith shall I come before the Lord, and bow myself before the high God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, calves of a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, or with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of mine body for the sin of my soul? He hath showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with the Lord thy God. Also make a note here, if you want to read through Yasher chapter 23. It'll talk about Abraham and the sacrifice of Isaac. Now I'm going to do one last short reading out of Ecclesiastes chapter 9 verse 12. For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes are taken in an evil net, and as the birds are caught up in the snare. So are the sons of men snared in an evil time, when it falleth suddenly upon them. Now, this evil time is coming, brethren, and all these prophecies and a lot of these end books in the Old Testament are about to come to pass. And a lot of it is directed towards Israel, but also the nations, so be aware. Blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. Jeremiah 17:7. The Lord leads with unfailing love and faithfulness all who keep his covenant and obey his demands. Psalms 25:10. And all his demands is to love him with all thy heart and all thy mind, and to stay away from all these idols we have, because that's part of keeping his commandments. Look in Deuteronomy chapter 4. You're not supposed to have any idol in the image of a man, a beast, a sea creature, or fowl. So you're not supposed to worship angels or image of any man, because our Creator does not have an image. He's in all things. So you're not supposed to worship the image of Christ either. Simply put, you worship the thing that created all things, including Emmanuel. And Gabriel, you don't worship the angels, you worship the thing that made those angels. Looking in the story of Daniel, look who he worshipped, the creator of all things, the Lord thy God. And so, just please keep that in mind. And that's who even our Christ or Emmanuel asked us to pray to, even in our book. It says, pray to the Father. Are you doing that? Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I know this is a bit lengthy, but, it need to be said. And thank you for listening.